King Solomon, legendary for his wisdom, wealth, and unparalleled reign, was a man blessed by God in ways few others in history could claim. He built the majestic first temple in Jerusalem, composed profound proverbs, and ruled with a discernment that left the world in awe. But despite his divine gifts, Solomon's final years tell a tale of sorrow, idolatry, and divine judgment. How did the wisest man to ever live fall so tragically? What led to his downfall? This is the story of King Solomon's last days, a cautionary tale of a king who had it all, yet lost his way. From the moment Solomon ascended to the throne of Israel, it was evident that his reign would be unlike any before. Unlike his father David, who had fought wars to establish Israel's borders and secure the nation's future, Solomon inherited a kingdom at peace. His rule did not begin with battles and conquests, but with diplomacy, wisdom, and divine favor. He was a king chosen for a time of prosperity, and his early reign reflected the blessings that came with it. One of the most defining moments in Solomon's rise to power was his extraordinary encounter with God. Shortly after taking the throne, he traveled to Gibeon, where the most prominent high place was located, to offer sacrifices. That night, as he slept, God appeared to him in a dream. In this vision, the Lord presented Solomon with a rare and powerful offer. "Ask for whatever you want me to give you." It was an opportunity unlike any other, a chance to request anything he desired. Solomon could have asked for immense wealth, a long life, or victory over his enemies. But instead, he made a humble request that revealed the nature of his heart. "Give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong," Solomon prayed. He did not seek personal gain, but rather the wisdom to rule with justice, fairness, and divine understanding. This request pleased God so much that he not only granted Solomon wisdom beyond measure, but also promised him riches, honor, and a kingdom unlike any before. Solomon's reign was destined to be one of the most prosperous and remarkable in Israel's history. With God's blessing, Solomon's rule ushered in what is often called the Golden Age of Israel. His wisdom became legendary, drawing rulers, scholars, and dignitaries from distant lands who sought his counsel. Under his leadership, Israel flourished in ways never seen before. Trade expanded beyond its borders, with merchant ships bringing gold, silver, spices, and exotic goods from Arabia, Africa, and even distant parts of Asia. Solomon's alliance with the Phoenicians allowed him to build a powerful navy that contributed to the kingdom's immense wealth. Diplomacy was another cornerstone of Solomon's success. He secured peace through strategic alliances, including his most famous marriage to the daughter of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. This marriage symbolized a rare and powerful union between Israel and one of the most dominant civilizations of the ancient world. Through careful political maneuvering, Solomon ensured that Israel remained free from war and conflict, allowing it to thrive economically and culturally. One of the most famous demonstrations of Solomon's wisdom occurred when two women came before him, each claiming to be the mother of the same baby. With no witnesses or evidence, Solomon faced an impossible decision. In a moment of brilliance, he ordered that the child be cut in half, with each woman receiving a portion. His intent was not cruelty, but a test of true maternal love. One woman immediately begged the king to spare the child's life and give him to the other woman, while the other agreed to the division. Solomon then declared that the first woman was the true mother, for only a real mother would sacrifice her claim to save her child. This display of wisdom cemented his reputation as the wisest man on earth. Perhaps Solomon's greatest achievement was the construction of the temple in Jerusalem. His father David had long desired to build a permanent dwelling place for God, but was forbidden due to his history of war and bloodshed. That sacred honor was reserved for Solomon. Determined to fulfill this divine mission, he undertook a project of immense scale, dedicating vast resources and manpower to its completion. For 7 years, tens of thousands of laborers worked tirelessly to construct the temple using the finest materials: cedar from Lebanon, gold, silver, and precious stones. The finished structure was breathtaking, adorned with intricate carvings of cherubim, palm trees, and flowers. At its heart lay the Holy of Holies, where the Ark of the Covenant was placed. It was a sacred space, signifying the very presence of God among His people. The dedication of the temple was a moment of unparalleled spiritual significance. As Solomon led the nation in prayer, calling upon God to dwell within the temple and bless His people, something miraculous happened. A thick cloud of divine glory filled the sanctuary, a visible sign that the Almighty had accepted His new dwelling place. The people of Israel rejoiced, offering sacrifices and celebrating the fulfillment of a promise that had been generations in the making. At this point, Solomon's reign appeared perfect. He was wise, wealthy, and deeply devoted to God. His kingdom was thriving, his people were at peace, and his legacy seemed secure. But beneath the surface, cracks were beginning to form. Small compromises, subtle desires, and unchecked ambitions would eventually lead Solomon down a tragic path, one that would undo much of what he had built. The wisest king in history would soon face the greatest test of his life: the slow descent into disobedience. As Solomon's wealth and power grew, so did his desires. Despite God's explicit commands, Solomon took hundreds of foreign wives and concubines, political marriages meant to secure alliances with neighboring nations. These women, however, did not worship the God of Israel. Instead, they brought with them the idols and false gods of their homelands: Chemosh, Molech, Ashtoreth, and many others. At first, Solomon remained faithful. But as the years passed, his love for these women led him down a dangerous path. He allowed them to build altars to their gods and even participated in their worship. The man who once dedicated a temple to Yahweh now bowed before pagan idols. The Lord had warned Israel's kings not to take foreign wives, lest they turn their hearts away. Yet Solomon, the wisest of all, ignored the very wisdom that had made him great. God's judgment on Solomon's descent into idolatry did not go unnoticed. The Lord became angry with him, for despite appearing to Solomon twice and blessing him beyond measure, Solomon still turned away. God pronounced his judgment. The kingdom would be torn from him, but not in his lifetime. For the sake of David, his father, Solomon would remain king until his death. But his son, Rehoboam, would inherit only a fragment of the once glorious Israel. This prophecy weighed heavily on Solomon in his later years. The vibrant king who once ruled with wisdom and peace now faced internal turmoil. Enemies rose against him: Hadad the Edomite, Rezon of Damascus, and Jeroboam, a man who would later become king of the northern tribes. The once unshakable kingdom of Israel was fracturing, and Solomon knew it was because of his unfaithfulness. The wisdom that could not save him. Solomon's decline is perhaps best captured in the book of Ecclesiastes, a book traditionally attributed to him. In it, he reflects on the meaning of life, wealth, pleasure, and wisdom. His words are haunting: "Vanity of vanities, all is vanity." Ecclesiastes 1:2. The man who once had everything, riches, power, knowledge, now saw the emptiness of it all. He had built grand palaces, acquired unimaginable wealth, and pursued every pleasure. Yet in the end, he recognized that all was meaningless without God. He lamented the foolishness of chasing after worldly desires, knowing that they ultimately led to destruction. His final words in Ecclesiastes serve as a chilling reminder of what truly matters. "Fear God and keep His commandments, for this is the whole duty of man." Ecclesiastes 12:13. It was a truth Solomon had once lived by but had abandoned in his later years. The final days of a fallen king. The Bible does not provide many details about Solomon's death, but history and tradition suggest that he died weary, disillusioned, and aware of the judgment looming over his house. The grandeur of his early reign was now overshadowed by the weight of his choices. He had started as the greatest king Israel had ever known, but he ended as a man whose kingdom was on the brink of collapse. Solomon ruled for 40 years before dying at the age of around 60. His son, Rehoboam, ascended the throne, only to witness the kingdom split almost immediately. The 10 northern tribes rejected his rule, and the united monarchy established by David and Solomon was shattered. What was once a golden era ended in division, strife, and decline. Lessons from Solomon's tragic end. Solomon's story is both inspiring and sobering. It teaches us that wisdom alone is not enough. Obedience to God is what truly sustains a person. He had the knowledge to rule justly, but his heart strayed. He pursued pleasures, wealth, and power, thinking they would satisfy him, only to realize in his final days that nothing mattered apart from faithfulness to God. His life warns us that even the greatest gifts from God can be squandered if we do not guard our hearts. Solomon had everything, yet he lost the most important thing, his devotion to the Lord. His sad end is a reminder that no one, not even the wisest, is immune to falling if they turn away from God's commands. As we look back at Solomon's life, we see a man who started strong but finished weak. He was given wisdom beyond measure, riches beyond counting, and power beyond compare. Yet even he was not immune to the temptations of the world. His story is a sobering reminder that no amount of knowledge or success can replace a heart that remains faithful to God. Solomon's rise and fall force us to ask ourselves, are we living with wisdom, or are we allowing the distractions of this world to pull us away from what truly matters? Are we staying faithful to God, or are we letting compromises slowly lead us down a dangerous path? His life serves as both an inspiration and a warning, a reminder that how we finish is just as important as how we begin. In the end, Solomon's final words still echo through the ages. Fear God and keep His commandments. This is the essence of true wisdom, the foundation of a life well lived. May we take His words to heart before it's too late. If this story has made you think, share your thoughts in the comments. What lessons can we learn from Solomon's triumphs and failures? And if you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss our deep dives into the Bible's most powerful stories. Until next time, stay wise, stay faithful, and keep seeking the truth.